152. ששבר מכל מעשים, יש כיסא כבודו, דיבן מלכה, עונק משבת, זה שבע שמשוי שמחנו אלוהים, טיפק מושין ושמסך.
כולם אהבים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים במעביר הרצון קנם, וכולם פותחים מפיהם בקדושה ותורה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ופארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים
את שם האל המלך הגדול רשו כולם מקבלים עליהם מלכות שמיים
וכולם מקבלים עליהם מלכות שמיים זה מזה ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש ליוצרו מנחת רוח בשפה ורוב ינימה קדושה כולם כחרונים ואומרים ביראה
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו.
ואומנים בחיות הקודש, בדש גדול, מנסים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו לברוך. וקיים שכל שבת מלחמות.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Amen. 154, we write our fourth seat seal together. To prepare for Shema Yisrael, love of Chaim Lang, the Rav, the Chod of Rachim Aleinu,
לשמוע ללמוד ולהמשיך לשמוע לעשות
Kvishim Kodshecha.
וקראתנו לשמך נוסע באמת, להודות לך וליחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
אמן.
שמע
ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. Continue page 156, volume שמות, תשמעו זה שנוכי מצוותכם. לא תתן עדו לעשות. כתבתם את ביתך
אדוני
אמת ויציב לכל קיים ושן אמנו אמת מלכנו
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וכיסו נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיים.
157 אמת שלנו אלוהינו
אמת שאתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואמותינו גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו יוצרנו צור ישועתנו פודנו ומצילנו מעולם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו ואמותינו אתה ומעולם.
Middle 158.
תהילות לאל עליון ברחום ברח
משה,
מרים בני ישראל דחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך בנים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נוראתי לו תוסף לב שירה חדשה שבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל קומה ובתנו מלכה יהודה וישראל צור ישראל קומה גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש 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 ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני
So Chevra, we begin on page 159 through 161. Place our feet together and face the ark as towards Yerushalayim. Reminder, of course, it is Shabbat Shuvah. This is the one time of year where there are all kinds of insertions in our Amidah. We follow closely. You'll notice in the bottom of 159, for example, and Shabbat Shuvah, we add the special lines which we add for the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, focusing on life, and please God remember us for life, and a few other additions for those who follow traditional prayers. You'll note them. So we begin 159 through 161, and the rest of our Amidah is done silently.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agitei latecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומר חסדים טובים, וגונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר ופוקד מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל והקל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים, ברחמים, ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום.
ככתוב וירוויח מקרא זה ואמר, קדוש, קדוש, קדוש,
אדוני צבאות,
מלך הארץ כבודו.
אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק, משמיעים קול. מנסים לעומת צרפים לעומתם, ברוך יאמרו.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור לנצח נצחים, ועינינו תראינה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלייך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושפחך לנו פיל משלי עולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש.
Amen. The new silent prayer. טוב לחיים טובים בביתך. Page 168.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה והלמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון ובמכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל ועגלה בזמן קריב והימרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם עולם מהלמד יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרום עמיד עשה ויתדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמרי קודשה בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תוש ברכתה ונחמתה דמירן מעמה והימרו אמן. תתקבל צלתון ואותון לכל ישראל קדם אבהון וישמעיה והימרו אמן. יהי שלום ארון שמעיה וחיים אלינו וכל ישראל והימרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו אמן. אין כמוך אלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. הרחמים היטיבו ברצונך, את ציון תבנה חומות ירושלים, כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך העם ונישא אדון עולמים. ויהי בנשוא אהרון, ויאמר משה, קומה אדוני, ויבוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך, כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה. אדוני מירושלים, בראש שנתן תורה, תורה בראש שנתן תורה, תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
אחד אלוהינו גדול, אדוננו קדוש שמו.
אחד אלוהינו גדול, אדוננו קדוש שמו.
גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כבוד השמיים ובארץ, כי כבוד השמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמין הזה לכל ראש. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כבוד השמיים ובארץ, כי כבוד השמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמין הזה לכל ראש. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו לאדם רגליו, קדוש הוא. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. say shalom, shalom v'imroma. Yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom v'imroma. Yaseh shalom.
Be seated, everyone. So, Rabbi Jenny, I have here, we are in Shabbat Parshat Vayelech.
That is a little confusing to me.
Okay. Page
That's what I practiced.
Right.
Okay. Well, then, This will be interesting.
Did you read the long? You really?
No, you have the right aliyah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. So, Chevra, we are turning page 1173 in our Chumashim for Shabbat Shuvah. Parshat Vayelech, where it's one of the last Torah portions in the entire Torah, which makes sense because I know people think we end on Rosh Hashanah. Truth is, we actually end really around Simchat Torah, which is still a little couple weeks away. We're on verse 1, page 1173. And for our first aliyah, we come forward. Vayazovegim v'shirasim bo v'nomar amen avu hakol havu godol lelohidnu kovod laTorah tamot shoshana bat yisra v'sara l'aliyah rishona baruch shetan Torah mois b'shato v'atem avigim Adonai lechem hayom hayom.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai barak le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam. Asher barucha banu mikol ha'amin. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayelech Moshe v'daber et hadvarim ha'ele el kol Yisrael. Vayamer aleihem ben mea ve'esrim shana anochi hayom. Lo uchal od latzeit ve'lavo v'Adonai amar elai la'ot ta'avor et hayarden hazeh. Adonai Elohecha hu over lefanecha hu yashmid et hagoyim ha'ele milfanecha v'rishtam Yehoshua hu over lefanecha ka'asher diber Adonai.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'chol b'neinu. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Shekoach, Susan. Shekoach. Be very careful. Okay. We're on second aliyah, verse 4, page 1173. And Fred is all in the family is our Bal Koreh. And who comes forward for the second aliyah? Tom. Yamun Sal ben Cholam Aliyah Shenit.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher b'chabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. V'asa'adonai lahem ka'asher asa v'sichenu ulog malchei ha'meir
Ha'emori.
malchei ha'meri ulartzam asher hishmidotam untanam Adonai lifnechem v'asitem lahem V'asitem lahem k'choha mitzvah asher tziviti etchem. Chizku v'imtzu al tiru v'al ta'artzu mipnehem ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'olech imach lo yarpacha
Lo yazveka. Shekoach. Right.
Baruch ata Adonai
Myra.
Eloheinu melech
Myra.
ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata Botekenu, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Shekoach. Kol hakavod. Beautiful job. Our third aliyah, we are in verse 7, page 1174. For the third aliyah,
It's Myra.
oh, she is the Olah also. Double, look at this. Nachas. All right. Let's see if I get her Hebrew name right. All right. Tamod Merav Bat Sheva Bat Harav. Gavalt, Yocheved Rachel, Ve'arav, Moshe Shlomo, L'Aliyah Shlishit. If I got this wrong, I'd be in trouble. Shabbat Shalom, it'd be bad. Start Yom Kippur the wrong way. Okay, go ahead, Meravi.
Baruch hu et Adonai Amvarah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
No, amen.
Amen.
No, amen. No, amen.
Vayikra Moshe Yoshua, Vayomer Elav Leinei Chol Yisrael, Chazak v'ematz, Ki ata tavo et ha'am hazeh el ha'aretz, Asher nishba Adonai, Lavotam latet lahem, V'eta temchilena otam, Adonai hu haolech lefanecha, hu yeh imach, lo yarabcha velo yazeka, lo tira velo tachet techat. Vayikto Moshe et haTorah zot, vayitna el hakohanim b'nei Levi, hanosim et Aaron breeds Adonai ve'el kol ziknei
Yisrael. Shekoach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam natan v'tochenu baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shekoach. Kol hakavod. I'm particularly proud. All right. Fourth aliyah. We are in verse 10, page 1174. Is that you, Jerry?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, hi, Jerry. Yamod Yosef Sisa ben Dov aliyah Avi'it.
Myra, just come find
Baruch hu es Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nosan lanu es toraso. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayitzav Moshe otam lemor miketz sheva shanim b'moed shnat hashmita b'chag haSukkot b'vo kol Yisrael leraot et pnei Adonai Elohecha b'makom asher yivchar tikra et haTorah hazot neged kol Yisrael be'oznehem הקל את הנשים והנשים ואתה הפקרך אשר בשעריך למען ישמעו למען ילמדו ויראו את אדוני אלוהיכם ושמרו לעשות את כל דברי התורה הזאת ובניהם אשר לא ידעו ישמעו ולמדו ליראת אדוני אלוהיכם כל הימים אשר אתם חיים על האדמה אשר אתם עוברים את הירדן שמה לרשתה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temes v'chayei olam netaboschenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Shekoach.
We're now on verse 14, page 1175. As the aliyah comes forward, invite all to please rise. We'll offer a special prayer for cholim. Yamoda. Chaim Shlomo ben Gedalia v'Shendel Aliyah Chamishit. As we pause in the midst of this prayer, I invite you to offer quietly the names of those who are holding in your heart this Shabbat Shuvah, who are in need of healing. In particular, 20 years since 9/11, when we know, sadly, there are those who are still suffering both on the emotional, psychological level, spiritually, but also literally physically. Those who went to try to recover, those who survived, those who dealt with the pile back in those days in other parts of our country, in Pennsylvania and Washington, D.C. as well. We hold them in our hearts, especially this Shabbat. Mi sheberach avotenu, Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov, v'imotenu, Sarif Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'rapeh et achronim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimlei Rachamim Aleihem Lachzikam L'Rapotam V'yishlach Lahem Me'rafua Shlema Min Shamayim V'at Nefesh V'at Aguf V'tach Shocholim V'chazek Yedei Oskim B'tzachehem Shebat Mizo Krova Lavo Ashta B'aglav Izman Kariv V'nomar Amen. May the Holy One have blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing and healing to all those we pray for. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being, together with all others who are ill. And may God grant strength to those who tend to them. The Shabbat is a time to refrain from crying out. We yet hope and pray that healing is at hand. And let us say together.
Amen.
El na revana la, El na revana la, El na revana la, Revua Shelema. El na revana la, El na revana la, El na revana la, Revua Shelema. You may be seated. So a reminder of verse 14, page 1175.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Revarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamin v'nasan lanu es toraso. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Hein karvu yamecha lamut, karat Yeshua v'yatzvu ba'ol moed ve'atzavenu, vayelach Moshe v'Yeshua v'yatzvu ba'ol moed, vayera Adonai ba'ol be'amud anan, yamod amud hanan al petach ha'ochel, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Hincha shochev im avotecha, v'kama amazeh, v'zana acharei Elohei necher ha'aretz, asher hu b'shama b'kirbo v'yazavani, v'hefer et briti, asher krati otoho, v'chara pivo b'yamahu, v'yazavtim v'starti panai mehem, v'haya le'echol u'matza'uhu, ra'ot rabot v'tzarot, v'yamar b'yomahu aloho, al ki ein Elohei b'kir bi matza'uni hara'ot ha'ela, v'anochi haster astir panai b'yomahu, al kol hara'ah asher asa, ki fana el Elohim achirim, v'yata kitvu lachem et hashira hazot, v'lamda et b'nei Yisrael sima b'fihem, v'leman ti'ali hashira hazot, la'ad b'vnei Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natah b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Shakot, kol hakavod. Amy won't like this, but while she's here, she needs to be properly recognized for stepping in, not only with this Torah reading, But for me and Rabbi Jenny, when we had the COVID overnight immediate, situation, Amy stepped up with Kathy to the rescue. Kol hakavod, Amy. Shikoach for always being there. All right. Yamod
Oh, who's reading? I'm not-
Ben Sion Ben Yosef Aaron Lalia Shishit, verse 20, page 1177.
B'nai Yisrael. Ki, is that
Yeah,
you?
key.
Baruch Adonai HaBaruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam
Baruch
V'ed.
atah Adonai Eloheinu. Baruch Adonai HaMelech Le'olam V'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki avienu el adama, asher nishbati lavotav, zavad chalav udvash, v'achal v'sava, v'dashen ufana. El Elohim acherim v'avadum, v'niyatzuni hefer et briti. והיה כי תמצאנה אותו רעות רבות, וצרות ועדה, השירה הזאת לפניו, לפניו, לעד, כי לא תשכח מפי זרעו, כי ידעתי את יתרו, אשר הוא עושה היום בטרם אבינו אל הארץ אשר נשבעתי. ויכתוב משה את השירה הזאת ביום ההוא, וילמדה את בני ישראל, ויצב את יהושע בן נון, ויאמר חזק ואמץ, כי אתה תביא את בני ישראל אל הארץ אשר נשבעתי להם, ואנוכי עמך, ויהי ככלות משה לכתוב את דברי התורה הזאת על ספר עד תומם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher notan lanu Torah emes, v'chayei olam notav b'sachenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yishakov, thank you. I got to tell you, my eyes are changing, guys. I'm getting older here. It's getting more
Welcome.
challenging.
Join the club.
I know your problems now. I know. Okay, I get it. All right, I got to wear my glasses now. All right.
Me too.
We're in Aliyah number 7, verse 25. Yamod Natan ben Bela v'Mechul HaKohen Laliyah Ashvi'it, verse 25, verse 1178.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayitzav Moshe et halviim nosei Aaron brit Adonai lemor lakolach et sefer haTorah hazeh v'samtem oto mitzad Aaron brit Adonai Elohechem v'haya sham becha le'ed ki anochi yadati et meryecha ואת אורפך הקשה, הן בעודני חי עמכם היום. ממרים הייתם עם אדוני, ואף כי אחרי מותי. הקהילו אלי את כל זקני שבטיכם ושוטריכם, ואדברה ואוזניהם. את הדברים האלה ואעידה בם את השמיים ואת הארץ. כי ידעתי אחרי מותי כי השחית תשחיתון וסרתם מן הדרך אשר ציוויתי אתכם וקראת אתכם הרעה באחרית הימים, כי תעשו את הרעה בעיני אדוני, להכעיסו במעשה ידיכם. וידבר משה באוזני כל קהל ישראל את דברי השירה הזאת עד תומם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We rise together. יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ויאמר יברח חירותי והמליך מלכותי, ויהנו ביום אחד, וחייכו בית ישראל, בגלה, ובזמן גריב יאמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך, לעולם ומהוויה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמר קודשה בריחו לילה לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תוש ברכתה ונחמתה דמירן ויאמרו amen. You may be seated. Reb Steve, do you have a card with your name? You'll tell me.
No, it's me.
Oh. נכון, סליחה. תעמוד הרב, יוכב רחל, בת מרדכי וחיה בלה למפטירה.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Hakilu Elai. Et kol ziknei shivtechem v'shotrechem va'adabara ve'oznehem et hadvarim ha'ele ve'aidabam et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Ki yadati acharei moti ki hashchet tashchitun v'sartem min haderech asher tziviti etchem v'karat etchem hara'a be'acharit hayamim ki ta'asu et hara b'einei Adonai lahach'iso b'ma'aseh yedechem. וידבר משה באוזני כל קהל ישראל את דברי השירה הזאת עד תומם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך את אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Have we rise together to lift and dress the Sefer Torah? Yamol Yoshua ben Binyamin ורחל המגביה תמות, וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לבני בני ישראל, אדוני יד משה. Maybe see everyone. Now the Haftarah you can find on page 1235. I don't know if Rabbi Jenny needs to say anything about that. No. Okay. So you'll notice the beginning of Haftarah begins with Shuva Yisrael, picked specifically because it's Shabbat Shuvah, with the themes of repentance.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar minim tovim ורצה בדבריהם הנאמרים באמת Baruch atah Adonai הבוחר בתורה ומשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת ובצדק. שובה ישראל עד אדוני אלוהיך, כי חשבת בעווניך, קחו עמכם דברים ושובו אל אדוני, אמרו אליו כל תישא עוון וכך טוב, ונשלמה פרים שפתנו אשור, לא יושיענו על סוס לא נרכב, ולא נאמר עוד, אלוהינו למעשה ידינו, אשר בך ירוחם יתום. הרפא משובתם אוהבם נדבה, כי שבה בי ממנו. היה חתל ישראל יפרח כשושנה, ויח שורשיו כלבנון. ילכו יון כותב, ויהי חזית הודו, וריח לו כלבנון. ישובו יושבי וצילו יחיו דגן, ויפרחו כגפן, זכרו כי אין לבנון. אפרים מלי עוד לצבים, אני תבשוננו, אני כבראש רענן, ממני פרייך נמצא. מי חכם ויבן אלה, נבון וידעם, כי ישרים דרכי אדוני, וצדיקים ילכו בם, ופושעים ייכשלו בם. תיקחו שופר בציון, קודשו צום, קראו עצרה, יספו עם, קודשו קהל, קבצו זקנים, יספו עוללים, יונקי שדיים. אל תראי אדמה גילי ושמחי, כי הגדיל אדוני לעשות. אל תראו בעמות שדי, קידשו נאות מדבר, כי עץ נשא פריו, תאנה וגפן נתנו חילם. ובני ציון גילו ושמחו באדוני אלוהיכם, כי נתן לכם את המורה לצדקה, ויורד לכם גשם מורה ומלקוש בראשון. ומלאו הגרנות בהר, והשיקו היקבים תירוש ויצהר. ושילמתי לכם את השנים אשר אכל הרבה, הילק והחסיל והגזם, חילי הגדול אשר שילחתי בכם. ואכלתם מחול ושבוע, והיללתם את שם אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר עשה עמכם להפליא, ולא יבשו עמי לעולם. וידעתם כי בקרב ישראל אני ואני אדוני אלוהיכם ואין עוד, ולא יבשו עמי לעולם. מי אל כמוך נושא עוון ועובר על פשע, לשארית נחלתו לא יחזיק לעד אפו, כי חפץ חסד הוא. ישוב ירחמנו, יכבוש עוונותינו, ותשליך במצולות ים כל חטאותם. תיתן אמת ליעקב, חסד לאברהם, אשר נשבעת על אבותינו מימי קדם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו הם צדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך כל לא ישוב ריקם, כי על מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו, רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולנו עד נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסא לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים מכבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכפה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד. על התורה ועל עבודה ועל הרבים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ותפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Shkocheh. Kol hakavod. Rabbi Jenny. Beautiful. We invite all to please rise this time. Invite those honored to carry the Sefer Torah and to escort the Torah to come forward to the bima this time. We turn to page 177. We'll offer together a prayer for our country on this anniversary of 9/11. Many of you know that Rabbi Jenny and I, we were living in New York City at that time, Manhattan, and there are many people in our congregation who were living in New York or Washington, D.C., or have relationships, connections to those, sadly, who were killed even on the flight 93 that ended up being heroically changed to Pennsylvania, to a field. It's a day that's marked in all of our hearts in our country and really across the world. And to honor this day, 20 years, for many of us, it's hard to believe it's been that many years. It can feel like it's just yesterday, that experience of vulnerability, of sadness, of utter tragedy. We pray that our country can continue to respond to those, sadly, who are terrorists against us, but in ways that continue to stand by the highest morals and virtues of our country. So together, page 177. Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai God, whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth. May you who cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom speedily fulfill the vision of our prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say,
Amen.
We now return the Sefer Torah to the Ark, page 183.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי
כי
נזכר
נזכר
שמו
שמו
לבדו.
לבדו.
הודו לארץ ושמיים, וירם גהן לעמו. תהילה לכל חסידה, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. He's for the כבוד ירים, אדוני עמים רבים. כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר עזים, וישבר אדוני את עזי הלבנון. וירקיתם כמו עגל, לבנון וסיריון כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצה להבות אש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יחולל איילות, ויחסוק יראות ובחלום, כולו מרכבות, אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. עץ חיים היא כמחזיק עמה, ותוריה מאושר, דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך, ונשובה חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
Maybe see everyone. Leave me hanging. Shabbat Shalom. All right, Shabbat Shalom. I'm wearing elbow pads going forward. That's it. Elbow pads. Good Shabbos, everyone. Shana Tova. And a Gamar Chatima Tova. Good sealing. Please God in the book of life. It's wonderful to see everyone here and online. So everyone online, you can see a click or a link to next to the live stream should say for the Devar Torah this Shabbat. And instead of focusing on the parsha of the week, we're continuing to focus on the theme, which is very appropriate. Shabbat Shuvah, time of repentance and focusing deeply in that in the middle of the 10 days. And this one is actually in preparation for Yom Kippur. So, like many of us know, I think everybody knows, Yom Kippur is a day of afflicting our souls. What says in the Torah? Afflict our souls. In 5 particular ways, the rabbis interpreted that. The classic one is we fast from food, eating. We do not drink any water. You're not supposed to put any type of perfumes or colognes on. You're supposed to wear shoes that are very basic, non-leather shoes, as the long-standing tradition. And you're not supposed to engage in any type of marital or sexual relations on Yom Kippur. Did I miss any other ones? That's right? Okay, that's it. All right. So it's a day of afflict. That's how the rabbis interpreted afflicting the soul. But. As you know, our tradition has interesting has multivocal ideas. You know, mainstream Jewish practice, in fact, normative Jewish practice, is we enjoy this world, we enjoy food and drink, we enjoy other people, and all kinds of things. This world is to be enjoyed. So one of the challenges or tensions on Yom Kippur is on the holiest day of the year, one might think that we should enjoy the world the most that day. We should kind of eat maybe more in that day. I know that sounds so crazy because they don't do that, but the idea might be that we should not reject or go against our bodies, or body needs, or body desires, or body enjoyment, because Yom Kippur should be emphasizing life and reminding us of life, etc. Of course, now that's not what the Torah says. The Torah says actually afflict your souls. But there's a certain tension there. Fasting, as we're going to look at here in Maimonides' approach, is it something 100% good idea, spiritually meaningful, important? Yes, it says in the Torah. But at the same time, fasting can be, difficult, obviously, and maybe it pulls us away from a certain ability to perform commandments. If you don't feel strong or have that kind of, nourishment, maybe you're not able to perform the commandments well. So what we're going to look at here is this tension between the idea of fasting, because it says do it in the Torah, it says afflict your soul, but on the other hand, is fasting always totally the best way to show our spiritual connection? Is it consistent with other Jewish ideas? This is the kind of idea we want to focus on together. So before we even do that, the question I want to put out before everyone here, and there's no wrong answers, okay? And I want to remind everybody that fasting is not only not permitted, but it is forbidden to fast. Forbidden if, God forbid, that you have any type of health issue. It's not you to come to me. Some people ask me every year, Rabbi, I feel badly. I feel I have a situation. I have to eat a little bit for my... It's not a have. You must do it. It is not you. It is not a option. You cannot risk your life, God forbid, in any way to fast on Yom Kippur. Okay, having said that, I'm curious for those people that are here that do fast on Yom Kippur, what do you get out of it? Or, if you're willing to say, what do you not get out of it? Is there something about it you say, this is very hard for me, and frankly, or if you say I do get something out of it, what would you say is the spiritual or moral, or how does it affect you on that day of Yom Kippur in your prayer experience or Jewish experience that it might not affect you? Do you feel that tension at all within yourself? Okay, is anyone here willing to say what fasting on Yom Kippur means to them? Or how challenging it is to them? Who we got? Henry Vakasha, what do you say?
It makes me focus more on the meaning of Yom Kippur.
Because, so what Henry said, it makes him focus more on Yom Kippur. But one of the challenges, of course, is when you're fasting, some people find it hard to focus. But you say it actually strengthens your focus on Yom Kippur. You fit? Very classic. A lot of people, I think, agree with you and feel it similar. Yeah, Amy, what do you say?
When I was a kid, Yom Kippur services lasted all day. There were no breaks.
Yes.
And so it made sense to me that you didn't eat because you were engaged in praying all day.
Yes.
And now that we have breaks during the day, fasting is not a problem for me. It doesn't affect me health-wise or physically. I don't feel it. But now that we have breaks, it's almost more meaningful. Even though I'm not engaged in prayer, I go home, my natural reaction is just to nosh.
Yes.
You know, and so it's not so much a physical
Some breaks, and there's a significant, usually afternoon break. And Amy's saying, look, that's the time where I naturally would go home and naturally start to nash a little bit. But by holding back, it's a deeper reminder of that day's importance. It's like it's a change in your habitual activity. Like I think is very profound as well. It's like a stopping, of what used to happen and having to retrain ourselves what the day is going to be like. So it's not just about the fasting itself, but actually I think refraining from normal behavior, which I think is a very nice point. You fit. Yeah, Barry, what do you say?
I guess I'm relating to personal experiences as well. But I find that it's also a cleansing, and we're cleansing ourselves in many different spiritual ways as well as physical ways.
You fit.
And I think that one of the things about fasting is there are periods of time that it's very hard to concentrate.
Yes.
Because I do think of food, or I think I'm hungry, and I don't have the emotional energy or the physical energy, the psychic energy at times. But then when we come to Nehila, I find that my spirits are just raised, my acuity, sounds, and thoughts are clear. And when I was at Bethel, I was a member there for a number of years before I came back here, they would pass out a lemon with cloves in it. And it went through the congregation, and people would
It's beautiful.
and the smells of the lemon and cloves were just so strong, sensuous, and they really focused. I could focus a great deal. I wanted to bring it here, but
I love that.
We'll do it.
We'll do it. I love that idea.
it's a wonderful experience that you share amongst the whole congregation. So they had a number of lemons passing, and you hope it made it to you.
Yeah.
That's
That is
great.
awesome.
So Barry
Yeah.
shared that Yom Kippur is a day of cleansing. We do this on many different levels. And specifically that when we don't eat, like there are moments where Barry says he feels he's able to concentrate well, and other moments where it's much harder to have the psychic energy to pay attention to what's happening. But in the end at Ne'ilah, there's just this really heightened sense of acute awareness of clear thoughts, but also clear senses. And he was talking about how at Bethel, they pass around a lemon that's punctured with cloves all over. And there's just that unbelievably strong sense of aliveness, of spices, of sweetness, all the things that come in an even clearer way.
That's
It's beautiful.
It's
Yeah, I
awesome,
can relate
Barry.
to that
Good
as well.
fit. Good luck. Yeah, Steve, please.
So when I was a young person going to shul with my grandparents, even though it wasn't required at that age sometime during the day,
Mm.
you are going to feel the pangs of hunger. And you're going to remember that those pangs will reinforce your desire not only to eat, but to be close to God and to open your soul and to do all of those things that you're supposed to do on Yom Kippur. And I have never forgotten that.
Wow.
I've almost welcomed the pangs.
Wow, that is so powerful, Steve. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful vision.
Steve talked about growing up as a young child with his grandparents going to shul, and they taught him that he still remembers today that the pangs of hunger that will come are there to remind us also of our yearning to be close to God, to do the right thing.
Wow, it's like a physical manifestation of a kind of spiritual desire. Wow, that's
Nice.
really cool. So Larry, what do you say, Larry?
One thing that I like about fasting, it's the one day of the year that I really understand what it means to be hungry.
Yes.
And that you can empathize with people who are not doing this
Yes.
because they want to, but because they have to.
Yes.
And so it really brings home what truly not having food could mean.
Yes. It's also quite profound. Larry's saying, look, it's the day of the year where one feels those pangs, and then they can identify, relate, have compassion, etc., on those who do not have the option of choosing Yom Kippur and as choosing a fast, but feel that feeling all the time. I think it's so profound and so true. So true. Wow, you fit. Someone else? Yeah, Mike, what do you say?
A number of years ago, I posed for a while a question of why do we have bodies? At least in the spiritual sense, we're
Right.
spiritual beings. Why we have bodies? Why
Yes.
God give us physical bodies? Now, I looked at that for a while. I talked to a lot of people about it. Finally, I'm blanking who told me this answer. I said, we have bodies so we learn compassion. Angels don't need to take care of each other.
Exactly.
Because they're never hungry, they're never cold,
Yeah,
they don't need that.
Yes.
The least we have bodies is learn compassion. And I think about that on Yom Kippur when I'm fasting. It's a little bit of what Larry said, but it's not only for hunger, but for all the things that we do.
Yes.
We should have compassion for each other.
Yes.
Fasting is part of reminding myself that I do have a body. I am a body as well.
Yes.
And having compassion for other people is an important part of this.
Oh, we should like a book on this. This is
I know.
awesome.
So great. Yeah, Mike said that that was raising the question of why do we have bodies at all,
Right,
which
it's a
of
bigger
course
question, yeah.
we are reminded of in a very intense way when we're fasting. And unlike the angels who sort of have all of their needs met, they don't have anything else, any kind of needs at all, that bodies are there to teach us compassion, not only for ourselves, but for one another.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
beautifully fit. Others, anyone else want to share with you? May Rav Bat Sheva, what do you say?
I never really understood why you two enjoy Yom Kippur.
Oh, Rabbi's daughter's giving it to us. Go ahead.
Until last year during the pandemic, because usually during Yom Kippur, I was spending so much time at shul, and I didn't really get the spirituality of it or anything like that, until I had to spend Yom Kippur at home, which is a very weird experience.
That's right.
It's also a lot harder because I was
Yes.
around food.
That's true.
And I realized that in one sense, Yom Kippur is kind of like a test. Not like a test in terms of like, oh my gosh, will you eat, will you drink, will you break the rules? But also a test of, Ema says this to me all the time, of like seeing if you can subside and work through your feelings. Like the whole saying, this too shall pass. Seeing if you can work through these hard emotions. And so now I kind of see it more as a test of my emotional and spiritual strength rather than just a day that I have to spend at shul.
Oh,
Great.
we're quelling. Yes.
So May Rav, in short, May Rav said last year, of course, most of you were
This is so true.
observing Yom
From home.
Kippur from home, which is the whole other kind of challenge.
And
where
the fridge is so close.
it's very food was easily
so hard.
accessible, but she experienced it as a kind of test, not a test that you pass or fail, but a test of watching the experience of hunger arise and then pass, much like our feelings. So it became kind of a test of her own emotional and spiritual strength rather than anything else. So basically, she said she enjoyed Yom Kippur more, found it more meaningful outside of shul.
Yeah. Just like Krista, a show of hands,
don't
who
think
found last year's Yom Kippur at home just harder to fast? Harder to fast, yeah. That seems like a majority. That's a very profound point. All right, Harvey, what do you say, Harvey?
I was going to say, with the fast, we break the fast, and we have generally a very simple meal, at least that's been the custom in my family. But that simple meal is like a feast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Teaches us maybe we don't need
Yes.
great grand,
Yes,
but
yes.
just enough is what we need.
This is for the break,
great.
not the last
Yeah.
meal before.
Right.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah, so Harvey was saying that in the tradition in his family for break fast is actually to have a very simple meal. And what might be experienced as sort of less than or not as satisfying, at other times you realize you experience it as a feast after a fast, and that
Very
you
nice,
realize
yeah.
you don't
That's
need quite as
beautiful,
much.
Harvey. Wow.
Great, yes.
Wow. Yeah, Dr. Hurlstad, what do you say?
In our congregation back in Michigan, the memorial service was held late in the afternoon. And somehow that freed me to cry. I was hungry. My soul was afflicted.
Yes. No, I hear you. Oh, Harry, thank you for sharing that. Harry basically was saying, many shuls do this. We do Yizkor in the morning, if you call it, middle afternoon. A lot of other shuls do Yizkor later in the afternoon, when the hunger pangs are strong, and it actually lifts up the emotion and the spirit of you. Kind of feel people's presence in a deeper way. It's very powerful, Harry. Thank you for sharing that. Next was woman. Yes, please.
So one thing that I enjoy actually about the fast is I think it becomes very apparent at that time that human beings are swaying more towards their godly soul than their animal. And the reason why is because there is a logic game that I play in my head. Because I actually don't get hungry, but I get very thirsty.
Yes.
And then I start reasoning. And I think that whole reasoning process of going, well, is water really food? Is it necessary?
Yes.
Die without water, I'm supposed to, now fast if I die. So, I do this whole psychological, round and round in my head. And I think that is so interesting. And I think that actually elevates us and brings us closer to God because animals, they just drink water.
Yes, yes.
And I think that is something beautiful about fasting, is realizing that God has given us this brain and this ability to look inward and see ourselves as something a little more elevated,
Yes.
a little higher in the hierarchy of life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So she shared that on Yom Kippur, when we normally, like animals who are hungry or thirsty, they just respond to those bodily needs. But it actually gives us an opportunity to observe the fact that we are a little bit, more evolved in that we have an inner life. We can observe those urges and still refrain and still sort of control our impulses and be aware of our own awareness, our own consciousness through that
even
process.
the rationalizations as well. Yefeh. Awesome.
Yep.
These are awesome responses. Anyone else want to share what their fasting is? Yes, please.
Just the way I look at it, when people are in a hard time, whatever it might be, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's whatever, that seems to be when people crave the deepest, crave the most meaningfulest, and in the same way that you're now in not your perfect shape, and you're hurting from food, that same sort of pain, whatever that pain is, I think it's a way to make your prayer responding before that much more meaningful.
Wow.
Yeah, so
beautiful.
he said that fasting brings about discomfort or pain, and it is from that sense of discomfort that actually our prayers become
So
more
true.
intense and more alive. Yeah,
Yefeh.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Is
Yvette,
that-
want to say?
It's funny, I fast other times during the year for prayer and stuff, and I find that fasting on Yom Kippur, for some reason, because we are so engaged in prayer, is so much easier for me that than during the Shabbat.
Sure.
where I feel like I'm more engaged and able to absorb, and then my hunger pains start. And then it's funny because you know that you're not going to stay there for the whole day. It's nice because you, even though you get to that low of, oh my gosh, I'm hungry, it almost breaks away from that rather quickly. And unlike some of my friends that used to have feasts, okay, to break the fast, I get sick if I eat too much after the fast.
Yes, wow. That's a very good point. She was saying basically she chooses to fast. Of course, there's other fasts in, of course, the Jewish calendar. You also can take on some personal fasts as well. But Yom Kippur is actually the easiest of them all, and so in general, and those pangs do arise, but you know that there's an end coming in the end. And in fact, if you eat too much at the end too, I mean, this goes back to Harvey's like a simple meal, I think. It's like, eating too much actually can have its consequences as well. So it kind of moderates in a certain way, and Yom Kippur is easier. I think it's also powerful, again, coming back to the issue of how many people did it at home last year, and your fridge is nearby, and also the sense of lack of community. Like, it's inspiring to see people and you feel, and even have, I know you don't schmooze during any of our sermons, but you might schmooze outside a little bit. It gives you some spiritual strength to see everyone's doing it together. It was hard at home. We were here. It was hard for us here, honestly. It was hard because you didn't get that feel of the soul energy of everybody doing it together. That was just really inspiring as well. All right, we did a lot. Yeah, Alan, bakasha.
For me, it feels like a very intentional act. You do or you don't, and in that act and in the decision, whether you do or you don't, it calls on me to think about the other times in the year where I make other decisions that impact myself or others, good and bad. And so that decision is a call to think back.
Wow.
Yeah, so
great.
Alan was sharing that there's such intentionality about making the decision to fast or not, and that sense of intention that comes with that reminds him of the many other choices that he makes to do or not to do throughout the year, probably in all kinds of ways, and seeing the consequences of such an intentional act or omission of it.
Whether you do it or don't do it,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's very profound. All right,
Great point.
any last ones we're going to look at what Maimonides says? Okay, well, this is so rich. Gaval, we have like a whole Torah commentary just here in the shul. All right, so come back to Rambam's going to say here. He's going to look at this tension between, on the one hand, Judaism in generally speaking, generally speaking, we don't want to hurt our bodies, God forbid, or deny our bodies. We honor the body, again, elevate the body, but we're also required. So it's a tension. So, Rabbi, will you read out here what?
Do you want to skip here, or do you want to start from the beginning?
Yeah, we can skip. We can start to. Yeah, how about it as it was taught by the Rambam? I kind of summarized the question. Go ahead. As it was taught by the Rambam, Maimonides.
Simpletons believe that the mitzvah to afflict the body on Yom Kippur is based on the idea that the Holy One despises the human body and wants it to suffer. For most human beings, sin in regards to their eating, drinking. Therefore, when the days of tshuva arrive, these simpletons believe that the Jewish people must begin afflicting themselves physically and especially punish the body, measure for measure, in direct proportion to all of the sinful behavior they did with their bodies during the prior year. But those of us who choose to punish our bodies are actually doing significant damage to the soul as well, because when we become physically weak, it also weakens our spiritual strength, the divine power within us. It diminishes, so to speak, the power of God that dwells inside of us. In turn, the mitzvah is to eat and drink to one's fill on Erev Yom Kippur in order to cleanse ourselves for the sin which we are on some level about to commit.
All right, just to be clear, what we skipped to the top is there's actually a Talmudic line that says that the meal you eat just before you fast is as important as your fast. That's the line. And so he interprets this to say basically, how can you be Yom Kippur, like before Yom Kippur, how can you be even close to as important Yom Kippur? He's saying, yes, because on some level, he's arguing, this is his read, the Torah is ambivalent about telling us to fast. Like it's, because in general, this is his read, the Torah is encouraging us to get into life. Not to not eat, but to say blessings for what we eat and be grateful for what we eat. To not, there's even a blessing, as many of you know, after going to the bathroom. Someone say, what are you doing at the bathroom? It's not very holy. Yes, it is. The attitude in Jewish take is, No, we don't deny the body, but we are grateful and count a blessing for the body. So he's saying basically, why does it say fast so much, eat really a hearty meal before? Because it's kind of making up for the mini sin. By the way, this is not what is in the Torah. This is definitely his read. And remember, he was a physician also. I think that plays a role in his interpretation. All right. Any reactions to his thoughts here about this tension that you might be kind of sinning on Yom Kippur by fasting too much? Or even the whole punishing the body motive?
Well, I think and I just want to add that he's also emphasizing, and the Rambam does this in a multitude of ways, the inextricable connection between the body and the soul. That it's not, the idea that they're separate is actually not very Jewish. They are connected to each other. So how we eat, whether we eat or we don't eat, all of those things have an impact on our souls.
Yefeh. Any thoughts about this? Yeah, Vet?
Yeah, no, this is a very Jewish idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yvette said, how could God despise our bodies and have sort of a negative sense about our physicality when we are created in the divine image? God created us in bodies, absolutely.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And so there's a balance there. But if we overindulge, we weigh ourselves down, both physically and mentally.
Yes.
Think about what it's like after a very heavy meal. We have the energy and the willfulness or the perseverance that takes to not
Yeah. I would say very heavy dessert, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Barry's basically just really emphasizing the intricability between body and soul, and when you overwhelm the body, how it actually affects the soul, and vice versa, how they're really interconnected to one another. I think it's very profound. I think it's also to say, this whole idea that the point of the fast is not to punish your body. Your body, we made mistakes, we all do, and it's true. There are a lot of mistakes made where the body's involved. Probably almost all mistakes, sins are made with the body involved. That's how we do things in the world. But that's not about a punishment. It's about an elevation and sanctification of it as well. All right. Yes, Susan, Bakasha.
Quick question. So could the Ramban have been surrounded by, for lack of a better word, overzealous students who denied their bodies because they were so absorbed with prayer? And so, in fact, it was a reminder, and perhaps an admonishment, that, as Rabbi Jen was saying, in the embodiment of Judaism, it is but one.
Susan's making a very nice kind of historical read as well, kind of a context read or interpretation or question about the Rambam. Right. That he's around others, whether it's his own students in the Jewish community or also outside other religious practices where fasting was considered, that this type of attitude came forward in those things. And he's basically saying hey, Jews, don't get wrapped up in that take, both within the Jewish community and outside of it, because that's not our take. Our take is more body positive, you might say. It's more body oriented, and don't deny that as well. But I think it's a good point that Susan's saying. It was outside. We know other religious traditions where specifically fasting on a regular basis or eating very, very little is a basic practice for the daily life. But that was also in the Jewish community as well. This is a tension he's kind of fighting within the Jewish community too. So you're
and I would say along those lines that Maimonides is famous for that idea of the golden mean, the middle path, that I think he's cautioning.
Right.
That for some of us, I know even at the very end of Yom Kippur, I experience, usually such a sense of elevation that I almost don't want to eat at that point. And he's saying, no. This is, you need to follow the middle path. You need to come back to some practice of moderation. That's the spiritual path.
Any last comments before we wrap up? Yeah, Ravi?
I like to think that the reason we fast is not because God despises the human body, but because God wants us to feel a little bit more like God. Eva has said many times that when she gave birth to me or my brothers, when she felt most in compassion and empathy with God creating life. And I feel like the way that Judaism teaches us to have a relationship with God is very mutual. It's not the one-way street. So in some ways, I think during the year
Okay, so Merav said, in short, instead of God wanting us to despise or reject our bodies, that the fast experience can be a way where we can actually connect more deeply, be more related to our own sense of our godliness and being in a relationship with God, because we're in these bodies that are creative and connected to the
And maybe
divine
also
always.
God yearns also.
Yeah,
God has yearning
yeah.
also. So does
Great.
Larry have something
Beautiful.
there? My last one? Yes. That's right. Yes, yes. Look, so Larry Bush brought a whole other very profound piece. A lot of the practices of affliction essentially are a proto-experience or
brush with our
brush with our
mortality.
mortality. That's a beautiful way of saying it. And so the Rambam is saying basically like, I mean, there's nothing, and look, that's the positive piece. It's a reminder, right? That how do you want to change your life? Oh, then he's saying, but come back. Come back, please God, come back from the precipice of it. You're fit. All right, Shelley, what do you say?
This discussion, just the way it has gone, let's talk about the Rambam, reminded me in 1973, Yom Kippur, I was living in Israel, and we came out of shul and discovered we were in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
And, there was blackout and all this stuff, but it was time to end, when it was time to end the fast, went home, put food on the table, and I have 4 daughters. My one daughter, who was like 8 or 9 years old at the time, started running around, throwing the food off the table. We're in a war. We can't eat.
Huh?
And we had to stop her and say, no, we have to eat.
Wow.
We need nourishment to go on.
Wow.
And sort of calm the kids out. But,
Wow.
Wow, what a story, Shelley.
but yeah, we had to eat.
Wow. Wow.
Shelley
what a
told the story of actually being in Israel in 1973
Kippur
when
War.
the Yom Kippur War broke out, and that she realized after coming out of shul that there was a war unfolding. And one of her daughters, who was 8 or 9 at the time, started to, when they came home to eat, throwing the food all around like, we can't eat, there's a war. And as the mother, Shelley had to remind her, no, we still have to eat. We still have to nourish ourselves in order to go on.
Yefeh.
Beautiful.
Very Jewish teaching. Kol hakavod.
Yeah.
Wow, what a conversation. Kol hakavod. Yishar koach. Take your text. You can pass it over to the middle. One of our chevra will collect them. We now invite all to please rise for the Musaf davening on page 184, Chatzi Kaddish.
יתכתב ויתקדש מרבה, למען דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייך וביומך ובחיותך בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן יהי שמרה ומבורך לעולם ולעולמי הבא יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשם בריחו לילה לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעמה ויאמרו אמן.
So, chevra, our feet together towards Yerushalayim. Pages 185 to 187 together, and the reminder of the special insertions for Shabbat Shuvah.
Adonai
Sifatai tirda uviagi dilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel Leah Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora אל עליון גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם
למען
שמו
שמו
באהבה
באהבה זוכרנו לחיים
ולחיים
ולחפץ בחיים
וכתבנו בספר חיים למענך אלוהים חיים מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני וחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד וחיי מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומה לך מלך מביט ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה מי כמוך אב הרחמים זוכר יצורה לחיים ברחמים ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נריצך ונקדישך כצדיח שר וקודש המקדישים שמך בקודש הכתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה עוזר ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך כל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבודו אדוני ממקומו הוא יפם ברחמים ויחון העמם יחדים שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים ביאהבה שמע אומרים שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנדלנה כל חי להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור אם לא חנה לעולם אלייך ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושפחך אלוהינו מפי ומשנה עולם ועד כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש אמן
עושה שלום במרומה הוא
Shalom, page 203.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה
אמן.
והמד יברח יהודי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון ובמכון ובחיי תכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב וימרו
אמן. יש מרבה מבורא לעולם ועלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה
בריחו.
לילה לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבתה ונחמתה תמירן ויאמרו אמן. תתקבץ לו תור ובטון תוכו ישראל קדם אבוני ושמע ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלום ארבע מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו אמן. אין כאלוהינו, אין כאדוננו, אין כמלכנו, אין כמשיענו, no tenemos Dios, no como nuestro Señor, no como nuestro Rey, no como nuestro Salvador. Mi Eloheinu, mi Adonenu, mi Malkeinu, mi Moshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu, no haremos nuestro Dios, no haremos nuestro Señor, no haremos nuestro Rey, no haremos nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshiach, bendice nuestro Dios, bendice nuestro Señor, bendice nuestro Rey, bendice nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshiach, tú eres nuestro Dios, tú eres nuestro Señor, tú eres nuestro Rey, tú eres nuestro Salvador. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשה נגידי ארצו, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, כקור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא
שמה יוסדות המושביקו בשמיים. הכן נקווה לך דמנו.
ונאמר אדוני למלך על כל הארץ,
היום ההוא,
ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
You may be seated. Invite those in mourning observing the arch site on this Shabbat Shuvah. Invite you to rise, page 207, Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba. Be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה. לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה. תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. You may be seated, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. We invite our past president, Susan Ehrlich, to offer announcements.
Shabbat Shalom and on Good Yom Tov on this special Shabbat in the high holidays. I'm going to highlight a couple of announcements. Most of them are either in your bulletin, but more importantly, the Beth Meyer website. It is a living document, and of course, after holidays and Shabbat, please make your way over to the to the website. It's really new and improved and has lots of great information. So this Sunday is Kever Avot at 10:30 at the Raleigh Hebrew Cemetery, a wonderful, meaningful ceremony, and hope that congregants can come. Also on Sunday evening online begins the Open the Gates campaign, the single important fundraiser for Beth Meyer, and it's really, again, a very powerful way and simple way to support Beth Meyer's financial needs. Kol Nidre, of course, begins Wednesday. Services are at 7. We have a food drive, which is going to be supporting JFS's food pantry. And there are places to bring donations all throughout the holidays. So again, it will be a ability to come in person, masked if you are comfortable, but also we have talented videographers who will be able to provide the services in a variety of platforms online. I'm not going to say more because I have a feeling there will be more information, and
great.
it's a changing target as COVID keeps us all responsible to care for one another in a variety of ways. And of course, Yom Kippur services are on Thursday. Details are in the bulletin. Family services in the big tent outside. Just a great space, and I hope people take an opportunity to enjoy that time. Break the fast, speaking of fasting and breaking that as part of our ritual, will occur here, and there's still openings, but you do need to register, and again, that can be done online so that we'll have an idea of the number of people. And then adult education classes begin on Sunday, September 19th. Again, I encourage you to take a look online. There's a wonderful adult ed bulletin. Everything that you could ask for is available, from learning Hebrew, Trope, Soulful Parent, Melton Extenders, and just a wealth of studies. So Shabbat Shalom, and hope to see everyone in some form over the holidays.
Thanks.
Go.
No, and that right. The food pantry at JFS is not a kosher. And the more, if you're listening, feel free to correct it. It does not need to have a K, and I do believe the preference is vegetarian, though.
Right. So my understanding is that the JFS, which we're very proud of course, supports those in need regardless of religious practice, right? Even people outside the Jewish community. So you can contribute technically. Well, I think pork and beans is not ideal, Barry, I hear you. I'm just got no idea, you're just kidding around. You really could bring any kind of things will be given out and served. But yes, it would be preferable things of vegetarian nature and things that if you could get with a hechsher, yes, but it's not required, and we do appreciate it. Also, for some reason you don't feel comfortable bringing cans, you're not coming to shul because of virtual things, you also can give donations of tzedakah just to JFS to support specifically food and food pantry. It's a beautiful mitzvah. Really in line, we talked about today, a day that we hold back from food, sensitizing ourselves to others. This was said beautifully, Larry and others said this is beautifully as well. Remember, we have Minyan tomorrow at 9 and Wednesday at 7. Well, Wednesday at 7 is Yom Kippur, so forget that one. But generally, it's Wednesday at 7, tomorrow at 9. Any other announcements you made about anything else? So last thing I want to say is that tomorrow, very full day. We have Minyan, we have Kever Avot. At 12:30 is the funeral for Myra Robinson, a really very special, long-standing Beth Meyer. Remember, we've had some huge losses. Frances Penzler, sadly, Alea Shalom, was laid to rest yesterday. Many people that are here today don't necessarily know these women because they have been, Frances lived for about 15 years in Washington, D.C. Myra sadly has not been well, but these were some of the women of the great, including Charlotte Litwack, may she rest in peace, some of the great leaders of our congregation, volunteers. I mean, back when Raleigh was a much, much smaller Jewish community, we really honor them. So Minyans for Shiva will take place on 7:30 on Sunday and Monday nights. The funeral's at the Raleigh Hebrew Cemetery at 12:30. And the Minyans will actually take place here at the shul. There will be a Zoom option, so you don't have to be here, but if you'd like to actually be in person, you can do so. We'll have the Minyan here in the sanctuary each night, and then out in the tent in the plaza, assuming the weather cooperates, we'll have a little opportunity for nashing and a chance to offer condolences in person. But of course, everything is also virtual as well. Okay? So, with that, we wrap up our davening. Page 211.
Adonai
Asher malach b'terem gol yitzir nira li'ed nasa v'chesoko hazai melech
shemo
nikra v'yacharei lo dagol levado yimnog nora vehu haya vehu hove vehu yiyeh v'tivara vehu echad ve'en sheni le'amshir lo le'avira
Beli Reshit
bali tachli velo ha'oz ve'hamisra vehu eli hayo ali etzor havli v'yetzara vehu nisi umanosli
Menat
kosi
v'yom
v'yom
ekra
tishras biyado avgid ruchi v'edisha v'ayira
V'im ruchi
Heviati Adonai li
ve'lo
ira
Hakem berach Adonai et yom HaShabbat v'yikadshehu savri
L'chaim.
Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafim
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi la'em min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom, B'tei Avon, everyone. Come join us outside for Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom
Yotzer or uvarech Osher Ose Shalom uvoreh et hakol Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvarech Osher Ose Shalom uvoreh et hakol Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvarech Osher Yoseh Shalom uvarech Osher Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvarech Osher Yoseh Shalom uvarech Osher Ose Shalom uvoreh et hakol Ose Shalom uvoreh et hakol Va'ani ashiru zecha Varanena boker chasdecha Ki hayita miskavli umanos beyom tzali Va'ani ashiru zecha Varanena boker chasdecha Ki